Good evening. I'd like to call to order the October 24th Falmouth Planning Board meeting. The first thing on our agenda is the minutes from October 14th.
I would move that we
Table
them.
those till we hear from our clerk.
Yep.
I need a second.
Second. I'm sorry, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're tabled.
Public comment.
Oh, now public comment, thank you. Is there anyone, this is a rule we have to do, excuse me. Is anyone here from the public that would like to speak on something that's not on our agenda tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on. Sorry. We may get rid of that, that doesn't seem to be,
Well, no.
no, we can leave it there, it doesn't hurt.
I think we're going to leave it for
Yeah.
6 months.
Request, next thing is request for release, covenants on Hiken Way.
Okay, Hiken Way is that subdivision the board modified to eliminate some time ago. And the appeal period for the plan has expired, it's been recorded at the Registry of Deeds. There's an outstanding road covenant. As you know, when a plan is recorded, they record a covenant with it. So now they would request the board to release that covenant.
Because they didn't do the subdivision.
Because the subdivision is gone,
Yeah.
and it's just a title encumbrance at this point.
So I move that we release the road covenant for Hiken Way.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Moving right along.
Take that back.
Yes,
Now
you may.
now I can sign it, and they can record it in the Registry of Deeds, and
There
their
we
bank is
go.
happy. See, I'm right on my microphone.
Yes, I'm
here.
watching.
Public discussion, applicant Gary Cannons, site plan review to construct an accessory apartment at 11 Santa Maria Lane. We have for the applicant, John, could you turn down the lights and could you come up and speak so the people at home can hear you at that microphone?
Sure.
Introduce yourself and tell us what you got going on.
Hi, my name's Gary Cannon, and I bought this property a couple of years ago, and with the intent of, moving my mother and stepfather into it as while I was living there with them. It's been a couple of years in the works to kind of do this. When I originally started the whole proposal, it was suggested that to me by the first person I spoke to that it was really not going to be such a difficult matter to create what he called a mother-in-law apartment situation. But then it seems to have been more of a matter than I had originally expected. So I think that we've tried to a friend of mine who is my contractor, Steve, and I think we've tried to cross every T and dot every I to make it possible to move forward with this proposal. My mom, she's barely able to walk now. She can get up in great pain. My stepdad, unbelievably, still walks the floor of Sears as a salesman for at the age of 82. He'll be 83 on November 11th. And I don't know what the future will bring, but I really need to be able to bring them into my life here. And so I've tried to create a space that is connected per your guidelines, but affords them and me, I might add, the most possible sort of privacy that can be done.
I got a question for you. Did you give your designer here our accessory apartment bylaw, and he designed this to fit? Does it match up with our bylaw?
I'm not sure. I
Well,
don't
what
know
I'm,
the
the
answer.
size of the apartment and
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the staff's reviewed the elevations, and it comports with the bylaw itself. This is for the board to take a look at.
Okay, so the scale, we don't have to do the measurement, that's all set?
Okay.
Okay, then that's good.
This is for your sort of a design review to take a look at the elevations and the layout on the site plan review.
You don't show any landscaping, but as I recall, the site has a lot of trees in the front already. Are you leaving a lot of those?
Well, that's interesting that you say that. I don't know, can you, Steve?
Or you could just answer yes or no.
No, so when I bought the place, it has like a kidney bean shape in front of it, and it was like overgrown amazingly. It took me all summer, 2 summers ago, just to hack away at it. So now there's not as many, I haven't taken down any trees, but it's no longer a jungle in the front.
Okay.
I mean, literally, when I moved in, the house could not be seen from the road, which was somewhat nice, but it was just ridiculous. And there was just all sorts of wild things in there.
I'm going to hand that down.
Yeah. This is the existing condition we have here, right?
Yeah, hi, I'm Steve McElhenney, the contractor.
Okay.
And the photograph shows, yeah, sort of existing conditions coming out onto Santa Maria. And at the left-hand edge is the edge of a little bit of stone retaining that forms that kidney bean-shaped island that's out by the front. So that has some good-sized plantings in it. I guess Gary's removed some. And there's a sketch that I brought up, sort of shows what might serve as a handicap ramp from the new proposed front door to get to the driveway, which will be reconfigured, obviously, because the garage access will be no longer needed.
So which is the front door to the primary residence?
One on the right.
That would be on the right of the elevation.
Okay, the existing front door now?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
And the one to the left accesses the accessory apartment.
I have a suggestion, you don't have to do it, okay, just in the design review. But you ever thought about a couple of shutters around the front door and a little bit of detail at the door to just make it look a little better?
Sure. No problem.
The architecturals were handed off to me from, Gary had
Right,
somebody do
I've
this
worked with
drawing
this
for
company.
them, and they're pretty schematic.
Right, but you could
So-
add a little detail
Absolutely.
that is just I just find, it's all my own personal taste, but a couple of shutters and a little trim around the front door looks a little better. That's just you don't have to do it, just a comment.
Well, and the sketch that I brought up of the proposed landscape, schematic as it is, there's a decent area of lawn that'll be created when that access to the overhead door is eliminated. So to the left of the property as you're facing it from Corte Real, there's a pretty decent area for lawn and then some screening
I
out
think
by
your
the
site has
road.
plenty of room for parking. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to worry about it. It's a big parcel, looks good. I think it conforms to what, yes?
I have a question. The opening that you show between the accessory and the primary, I'm wondering, what's the possibility it's open here because you're all one family going to occupy it, but what's the possibility for that being closed off or for separating the two if you wanted to?
I'm told that we're not allowed to do that, so.
It's a building code issue.
Wasn't there supposed to be a firewall between the two?
If you're going to put a wall in between, you have to get a building permit, and it has to be a fire-rated wall.
Okay, so this So this is just an in-law, that's not really an accessory apartment then?
Right.
It could,
Well, it's got a kitchen.
if in fact,
It doesn't matter, it's a building code issue, not our job.
Right.
Okay. I understand. Yeah. So it's a code, I see why you're doing this now. It's a code issue. Yeah,
Yeah, that's not a firewall
Right.
between, you know,
So
on
these
the
aren't two-
outside,
it's
what's
the
currently
extra,
the
it's
gable
the
end of the
extra stove,
existing
but you don't
building.
have to do it because they're connected. We didn't envision this happening, but I think it works. John?
Coastal Pond Overlay District. You're in a Coastal Pond Overlay District, denitrification of the septic.
at the discretion of the board,
I'm not exactly sure what you just said, but the septic it's rated for three bedrooms.
Right, but you're in a Coastal Pond Overlay District, and our bylaw says that denitrification of your septic system, I thought it is a requirement.
unless the board exempts them, which is
Okay.
your purview.
I could defer to the Board of Health on that myself. I don't, you have to go to the Board of Health anyway, right?
For sanitary code purposes, under the state sanitary code, yes. Under the zoning bylaw, it's this board that would decide whether or not there's such an increase in flow that, you know, you would require a denitrification, or is it the equivalent of a three-bedroom house?
So I think the question they're gonna ask you when you go to Board of Health is the existing Title V system for a two-bedroom or a three-bedroom or a four-bedroom house?
Yeah.
The existing system is for 3 bedrooms.
Okay.
And you're not adding a bedroom?
We are adding a bedroom, but there are only 2.
There are only two, so you're saying you have a
Well,
three-bedroom house,
net
three-bedroom
is 3.
application?
Yeah.
Right.
That's in the Title
Any-
V document,
What's the square footage of the original house?
720 square feet.
And the addition is gonna be?
I think it's roughly the same. We're adding about 240 or 250.
It's a little longer,
Yeah.
a little narrower.
Yeah, this is a little different than what
Right.
we were expecting for an accessory
Right.
apartment. With the opening between the two. Yeah, but like you say, it's a building, not an apartment.
Well, they're gonna attach the garage. Right now, it's not attached.
Yeah.
They're gonna attach the
Yeah.
garage and
Right.
make it one dwelling unit, or
Right.
one
Right.
structure.
Yeah.
Does this meet the spirit of the bylaw? That is the question we need to ask ourselves. I think it
I
does.
think
It does.
I think it does. And is it going to help the neighborhood, the town? I think it's a real improvement. I don't have any problem approving it.
Yeah.
I agree 100%, but if you exempt this from the denitrification, every applicant that comes in here that's in a zone of contribution is going to expect the same treatment.
As long as they're not adding a bedroom, we might be okay.
Well, in this case, they are adding a bedroom.
No.
But not over what their septic system is designed to
They
be.
have a three-bedroom septic system.
I'm just making a statement.
But if we defer to the Board of Health on that
Sorry,
decision,
guys.
My understanding with the Board of Health is if it's a three-bedroom Title V system, they're not going to require DNA. It's not in their bylaw. It's not, it's in this bylaw. So if it's not a requirement, if it's optional, if it's the discretion of this board, I'm just suggesting that since this is one of the first ones, you're going to, every applicant is going to expect the same treatment. Just making a statement.
I hear you, and it's a good one.
Does conservation have a groundwater flow overlay for that parcel?
The town of Falmouth has an overlay district for coastal ponds. So you're theoretically,
Near Upper Green Pond, right?
whatever comes out of your septic, your Title V system, will flow eventually into a coastal pond, and it will contribute nitrates. That's the theory. And I think you're in the Green Pond, coastal pond overlay, but I'm not sure. I'll have to look at the map.
Well, I'm
It
just,
doesn't matter which one
I'm
you're
just
in.
curious. that
Yes,
the
it says-
property's in-
The property is in one. I don't know.
It,
which
it
one.
says that we can require a denitrification system if you're in an overlay district and the site plan shows you are. So that's an option to this board to require it if they want to.
Right, so the board has to find it, each application has a distinction typically. In this instance, they could easily convert this to a 4-bedroom house by a matter of right.
And then they wouldn't need a denitrification system anyway.
So you can always find a
And
distinction.
it's technically connected, so it's a 3-bedroom. We're looking at a 3-bedroom house with a special permit for the stove.
I'm sorry,
Not-
I have to speak into the mic. Just for the board's, consideration.
I think this one's a really special
I have no problem with that.
condition. I
Yeah,
appreciate,
it's precedent.
Since it's new, we need to have a discussion about it.
well, we're having one right now.
And I know the applicant doesn't quite understand what we're talking about, but if we were to require it, he would understand it pretty quickly.
Yes, he would.
So, like I said, I don't have a problem with it, however.
I think that they could easily put this into a 4-bedroom house, which they could just put in a brand-new 4-bedroom septic system on the house, and they're only 3 bedrooms, so I don't really see the flow. If our charge is to protect Green Pond, I think we're okay here. What do you guys think?
It seems that we could distinguish this instance from others, which I take John's point. It would be good to be able to do that, but I'm a little foggy on the distinction. I wonder if Brian could repeat it.
This house could be converted as a matter of right into a 5-bedroom garrison colonial, and these individuals wouldn't even be here, and there'd be no requirement for enhanced nitrogen removal. In this instance, you're sort of getting an in-law apartment on a 3-bedroom house with a 3-bedroom septic system. All things being equal, it's something the board should consider when you're making your decision, A, from an equity standpoint, and B, from a practical standpoint. If there's no technical increase in flow, it's something you can argue if, in fact, sometime down the road, you get another application under a different set of circumstances. In this instance, you sort of no net flow increase.
So you're saying we really shouldn't bend over backwards and penalize these applicants just because that's a new requirement? There are certainly ways to see it either way. Better to take the way that's accommodating.
I think you can interpret what I have said in any manner you so choose.
That was the one I chose.
It's essentially asking us if we should require an upgraded septic system to accommodate a stove. And-
Well put.
Can I mention one other thing, please?
Mhm.
Just want to make sure the applicant understands that if this gets approved and you build it, it has to be your residence a minimum of 7 months out of the year. It's not a duplex to be rented out each side, so.
You should read the accessory apartment bylaw and understand what you're getting.
As long as you
There's other
understand.
requirements too, that you have to sign an affidavit
But this
every
is a-
year and send it in the building department, say, I live here.
Right.
And I rent out just one side, or my family stays in one side, whatever you do. But we don't want to turn them into duplexes or investment properties. We wanted, the bylaw was created so people could have their family live in there, exactly what you're trying to do. Either stay in your home or live with your parents. That's why we're, not to turn it into an investment property.
When did you establish this new?
Brand new bylaw passed last year.
Last year, yeah. So,
You're the third one.
yeah.
And if it gets approved and you live there, it doesn't have to be an in-law that rents the other side. It can be anyone that you
What were
choose.
they to do with it?
But
They
you
put
have
it
to
on.
live there 7 months out of the
Say
year.
it.
Yeah, yeah. So we highly recommend that you get a copy of the accessory apartment bylaw, just so there's no surprises.
Yeah. I really think a huge distinction here, however, is that there is not going to be a separating wall between the two dwellings. Because when we envisioned an accessory apartment, this essentially, what I'm seeing here in front of me is an addition onto an already existing house
Yeah.
with a second kitchen thrown in.
Right.
And there are a lot of houses that do exist with 2 kitchens.
Mhm.
So we don't even have to argue, it's just accommodating a stove.
Right.
Right.
To actually separate it, then you gotta deal with the fire code.
Mhm.
You've gotta deal with, oh dear, a 5-foot space there that now you're gonna have to frame out.
Right. Second means of egress.
Exactly. Well, there is another means of egress, but,
Out of the addition?
yeah, it's, if you look on the front.
There's one. No, not out of the,
Oh, you're talking about 2 means of egress.
On each
oh,
side.
okay, wait,
There
is that a sliding door there? Okay. Going out to the
Okay.
side. Okay, I didn't see that.
So this would be more complex to make it into something that we envisioned as an accessory apartment.
Right.
This, to me, looks like, okay, it's an addition onto a house.
Yeah.
It could just as easily, that bedroom could be expanded into the living area, and it becomes now a master bedroom.
Brian, why can't they just apply for an in-law apartment? And not an accessory apartment?
I think just for the sake of being careful under the bylaw, it's only a plan review, not a special permit. I think they're following the correct permit path. But even though it may not quack exactly like a duck, it kind of walks like a duck. So best to get the board's approval.
I really like this. I think we,
Yeah.
in a decision, I think we need to differentiate why we are making the decision very carefully.
So you'll take care of that, Brian, in our decision?
Correct. I mean, you want to put this, next time you meet will be the 14th of November.
No, but we usually don't approve, we
Right.
write the decision, so your draft decision will take Pat's concern that we,
In the findings.
in the findings.
Mhm.
Yes,
Distinguish.
that's what I was hoping.
So that, to answer
to
John's
John's point of view.
concern, that now not everybody who walks in here looking for an accessory apartment is going to want to just deal with their current
Right.
septic system.
This is more nearly a potential accessory apartment. We've confused the applicant and ourselves with that.
Well, I don't think he even knew we had the bylaw.
Right.
Okay. We can do that for you.
Okay.
I think it works. I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Complicated, John.
I don't think it's very complicated, but I just wanted to make you aware.
Oh, we're aware of it.
I would ask John, the only pitfall you see is the issue of the Title V versus D9.
I just think that every applicant that comes in after this is going to expect the same treatment.
As long as they don't have a party wall going down the middle, I think I'm okay with it. But if they do, then it changes the conditions. So I think that's what we have to go on. Right?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
We're making it up as we go along here. You know, this is not what we anticipated on some of these
The
issues.
applicant has a question.
Yes.
So, I'm sorry, I'm kind of, so is it an accessory apartment or is it not an accessory apartment? Is it going according to that new bylaw or am I not?
You're here because we thought you wanted to go to it, and looks like we're getting really close to saying yes. If you want to withdraw it and go another direction, that's up to you.
But that
They're here now, they've applied, they should go through the process. When they go for their building permit downstairs, the building commissioner, that determination can be made. But the best to at least have your approval before they go downstairs, so they have to go back again and see.
It was, this was, building inspector, he's still under,
Well, yeah, this actually came back to us and now to you from Rod,
Okay.
So
because
he's
the
made that call.
application was made in August.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
And it languished at health. And I called to check on it and finally got the answer that, oh, you need to talk to Rod.
Okay.
So we spoke with Rod, he referred us to you, and we came forth with the application that you have.
So it works, Brian's gonna draft a positive motion for us to vote on at our next meeting, and then we hand it off. And away they go,
Where they go.
okay?
Okay.
So
Do you
next,
add anything more?
No, and I think what I would like to do, with your permission, is that, as Jim said, this is a really new bylaw for us. And so we are working through it. We did not envision something identical to this. So that's why a little bit of the, tonight. So thank you for your forbearance on that while we work through this.
Understood. Okay.
So then procedurally, we are not able to sort of move forward with the building permit until your November meeting then?
There's no way for us to
Well,
do
that's
that.
only because of, that was the next time we meet.
Yeah.
town meeting is 6th and the 7th. You're not meeting on Halloween night, and so your next meeting is the following week. The other option is for the board to simply vote as per plans and your standard conditions, and I think I have enough here to make it distinguish something for you.
I think we can make an exception. I can tell you from my experience in the town, it has happened that your building permits can sit down there between one office or another for days, and you seem to be in a hurry to take care of your family. I can make an exception to doing it. We usually don't do the decision and at the same night. Our practice is to wait, and we need to have a special reason for making it happen like that. So everybody all set with that as well?
So a motion to approve the plans for,
You make it.
okay.
I get to call
Okay,
you.
for Gary Cannon
Okay,
as,
so I'll make a motion to approve the plans for the addition to 11 Santa Maria Lane, East Falmouth, Mass. for the Cannon family,
As per the application.
as per the application.
Application.
Yes.
second.
The only condition is as per plans? Yep.
Your standard condition number 1, and in your findings, you want some distinguishment between an accessory apartment and an in-law apartment, lack of a firewall, the rationale for the boards not imposing a denaturifying system, which is
We have a
that
motion and a second?
it's essentially adding a stove.
Yep. Motion and a second?
It was already seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All set?
Okay.
So I'll try to get this done by the beginning of next week, because I won't be
I
in.
didn't hear you. Could you just say one more time how you just summed that up?
So the board has just approved your application.
Mhm.
So your application has your site plan and your elevations. So their motion is that they approve those site plans and elevations, and that letter goes then down to the building commissioner. And in that letter, they want me to distinguish on their behalf that why they didn't impose a denaturfication system, because you're essentially adding a stove, and it's not a true accessory apartment because it lacks the party wall.
So it's not an accessory apartment?
Their interpretation, okay?
But
But ultimately, that's up to the building commissioner.
Let the building commissioner decide that. We're trying to help you get your building permit here,
Got it,
okay?
got it. Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll
You
try
came to
get-
us to ask for this, and we're saying, okay, to help you.
Thank you very much.
We think it's a special condition.
I really appreciate that.
Okay.
And good luck, it'll be a great improvement to that neighborhood. I think it'll really
How
look,
long have you been
it is, and I know the rest of you guys probably haven't seen it, but I've been in this house a couple times. And boy, is this gonna be an improvement.
there? No, the house is actually quite nice now.
Now, I haven't seen it, I saw it before you bought it.
Yeah. No, a guy named Ryan, he literally redid it, so.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay.
so we're, this next thing,
Brian, we didn't.
who's this? Is that on?
It's not a permit.
So we have An applicant, Bogosian Development, we're going to table that. Do we need a vote to do that?
You do not, we just table that, Mr. Chairman, until your next meeting,
Okay.
so the applicant can work on its application.
Planning board discussion, Town of Falmouth site plan review to reconfigure or reconstruct parking at 744 Main Street. So, we have a decision.
Yeah.
Would you like to read it, Bob?
Oh, okay.
Please.
Okay, October 20th, 2017 draft motion that the planning board vote to approve the application of the Town of Falmouth under Article 39 Site Plan Review of the zoning bylaw for a plan entitled Site Plan Review Parking Plan 744 Main Street, prepared by Tetra Tech, Inc., dated September 25th, 2017, revised October 5th, 2017, scale 1 inch equals 40 feet, 4 sheets with the following findings, recommendations, and conditions. Findings. The planning board in 1987 issued a site plan review special permit under a predecessor bylaw for this location, 744 Main Street, pursuant to the construction of the Gus Candy Recreation Center. In part, this decision approved the design of and the number of parking spaces allocated to the buildings on site, including the Recreation Center, the Edward Marks Building, Courthouse, and the Falmouth Police Department. A parking reduction was also granted to allow a total of 150 spaces to be designated for use for the activities associated with the Recreation Center, instead of the 200 that would have been required under the zoning bylaw. The board conditioned its decision that any changes to the plans would need to be approved by a successive board. Accordingly, this application seeks to reconfigure and reconstruct the parking, circulation, curb cuts, and the attendant drainage, lighting, and landscaping for the current and the proposed buildings on the site under the current site plan review bylaw. The intent of the improvements to the parking and circulation shown on the amended plan cited above is to accommodate the proposed senior center as well as improve the existing conditions. The board finds the redesign of the curb cut and driveway serving the police department to be a vast improvement over existing conditions, as well as the proposed access to the recreation center, which is showing an expanded curb cut at Scranton Avenue to a proposed exit onto Dillingham Avenue. Circulation is better enhanced for the parking field, and drainage will be improved to today's standards. Circulation is better defined with granite islands, crosswalks, a drop-off area, and directional lighting. Lighting will be enhanced for the parking field, and drainage will be improved to today's standards. Handicap parking is being expanded, and an area dedicated to employee parking and deliveries is proposed. The board finds these and other improvements shown on the plan acceptable, subject to the recommendations and conditions contained herein. The board is aware that the number of parking spaces available will dictate in many ways the future design of the proposed senior center. This design effort has not yet gotten underway in anticipation of this decision. The board understands and is sympathetic to the constrained nature of the site and appreciates the efforts of the design team to produce a plan that accommodates the vote of the electorate. Therefore, the board will offer the following recommendations in this decision, knowing that the design process is still ongoing and subject to refinement as plans progress, rather than issue conditions other than its standard condition number 1 below. Recommendations. 1. Pedestrian access from the parking field to the Gov. Fuller Athletic Field should be better defined as the plans for the proposed senior center progress. 2. A turnaround for vehicles centering the police department driveway and area should be provided. 3. Deterring cut-through traffic from Dillingham Avenue in the form of a gate or similar control structure should be considered. 4. Additional lighting should be provided in the area designated for employee parking and deliveries. All lighting on the site should be designed as down lighting. 5. The existing sidewalk along the easterly property line should be extended to the athletic fields. 6. Coordination of on-site activities during and after construction with Commodore and high school football programs is highly recommended. 7. Handicap parking may want to be grouped behind the proposed senior center to jointly serve the building and the activities at the athletic fields. 8. Angled parking adjacent to the senior and recreation center should be considered, given the users of either facility may be below the 80th percentile in driver ability. 9. Public parking serving the police station is absent and needs to be provided, either from these approved plans or elsewhere on site. 10. Roof drainage from the existing recreation and proposed senior center building should be incorporated into the future design program. Conditions: 1, the plan shall be constructed as approved. Any changes shall be reviewed by the planning board to determine if a modification of this decision is necessary. Pursuant to section 240-183B of the zoning bylaw, no permit for full or partial occupancy shall be issued until the planning board is satisfied that the conditions of this approval and predecessor approvals have been met.
Second.
Discussion. John, what do you think?
Looks good to me. The conditions look good, and suggestions, what we discussed when we were here.
It's the best they can do concerning isn't the right site for the senior center.
Well, it's not our call. John?
I just have a question. I think it's a good plan. I don't have any problem with it, but I'm curious how they're going to satisfy some of these conditions. I'm sure it can be done. Pedestrian access from here to there would be like where? And the easterly sidewalk? Any idea how to carry that out? Are these conditions that can be carried out?
Well, they have to.
Right.
Recommendations here, not
Recommendations?
conditions. Recommendations, not conditions.
So they don't.
So eventually it will come back to you, because the building will need a review. If there are changes to these plans, they need a review. Because the building is proposed to, right there for the moment. There's no way to truly define where that access would go. There is a sidewalk on the easterly sideline that can be extended, but they would have to be designed. So most of the conditions here, or most of the recommendations you have in your motion are achievable.
Huh.
It's just that the details need to come forward once they get a architect on board, and that will be in a few months, and get the program going for the senior center. But my sense is they're pretty achievable.
They are achievable. Thank you.
So this purpose is just to get the parking count right, basically.
Exactly.
Okay, that's what they've been studying. How are we gonna, how many parking spaces we need and where they're gonna go? That's what we're looking at.
Exactly. You're amending your 87 decision. Let's say, like I said, for the sake of argument, the senior center goes away. Are these improvements okay? If you're going to put a senior center there, then here are the recommendations for the site plan. That, your condition 1, you will be seeing again. Simple as that.
Do I have a motion to approve?
You do.
Well, you've got a motion on the
So,
floor,
do we have a
but
second?
I seconded it, but I have problems. So, I just have never voted on something before in all my years on the planning board that has been so loosey-goosey as this plan. I'm hearing, well, this is just a suggestion. If they actually do build the senior center here, well, then we're gonna have to do some other things. And I'm looking at this site saying, we've taken away the parking for the police station and put it in this mix. We already, in the original 1987 decision, gave them 50 parking places already, even though 200 were required. We said 150. We've taken another, I think it's 25 in this current plan that we're asking, we're being asked to approve, and said, well, that's all going to be for employee parking. And my feeling is that if the fields were gone and we could move this a little bit more and do some better parking in here, we'd be much better off instead of just well, it's a suggestion and we have all these recommendations. Brian is saying, yes, it can all be accommodated. But I am very concerned that even though these are recommendations, we're going to be pointed to saying, well, you approved it, so it's good to go.
Is your concern that we won't have enough parking
Well,
spaces?
let me make sure the board
Because there's all
understands.
this?
Excuse me, just, the only thing you're approving is this parking scheme. If there are changes, they come back to see you. If that building goes in, they have to come back to see you. And then you get a chance to see what they did for pedestrian access, what they did for a sidewalk, what they did for lighting, and all these things. All the board is doing is approving a parking layout. You're not approving that building.
And I understand that.
Right.
And I don't even think that the parking layout is all that good either, but that's me.
I know I'd like to see them follow what the Cape Cod Commission had designed for this area as part of our reset plan, but obviously they can't with what they're trying to, I wish they could, I wish they'd at least try, but,
Well, again, they're not there yet.
right.
Can't even design the building until they have an idea of the parking that may be available. And what we're telling them at this point, it's going to be probably 90 minus the police station.
So,
So it's going to be somewhere around 83 times 3, it's about 250-something seated capacity. Once they have that number, they may not be able to build this building. But the town needs to know what the number is for this site.
Well, I have another question then. If this is all the parking that they can build, and the amount of parking is going to control the size and the use of the building, as we've heard, then are we shortchanging our seniors? Are we saying, okay, we're gonna put all of this money and effort into building a senior center here, and we're gonna have the same problem we do as we have in the current senior center, where it's too small and insufficient parking?
And if that were a site plan review criteria, you'd be all set, but it's a site plan review. Right. The decision has flowed, That's why your motion says that you understand that you're working with a constrained site and that you're trying to accommodate the vote. Those decisions have been made. This board is looking at essentially a reconfigured parking scheme at this point.
And this is zoned public use, not business redevelopment.
That's
So the
correct.
parking, my wanting to push the parking to the rear and the buildings to the front is only covered in the Cape Cod Commission reset and not in the zoning that they are constrained by. So we're looking at this under a public use.
And the bylaw that you have, and we saw this in 1999 when they expanded the parking out towards Main Street, the bylaw speaks to private parking lots,
Right.
not public. So the board is the board has to go back to town meeting, like I said. If you want to have more design control or more say as to what goes on here, then you need to go back to town meeting. But the board is looking at this essentially as an administrative review under site plan review. It was a special permit back in '87. Special permit went away as a process, and you're looking at this now.
Charlotte?
I just want to ask a question. Included here is what I read as a potential expansion of parking that's quite extensive. Should I be reading it in that way? What is the purpose served right now by including all of this not quite parking?
Yeah, that's there just for your information. It's not part of your permit or your decision.
I understand that,
Right.
but it would appear that there is, if this is inadequate parking for the proposed use, there is some thought given to more adequate parking. Is that true?
Take a step back, the determination of adequacy, it might be a 5,000 square foot building. Right now, they're proposing a 15,000 square foot building. So the determination of adequacy right now is premature.
Right.
It's not in front of the board. What you're doing is showing this site and improving the circulation and design and adding parking spaces that are reasonably laid out, are an improvement over existing conditions that may accommodate a proposed senior center, the size of which is undetermined. So that's where you're at. That's why we're saying, okay, here are your recommendations instead of conditions. The site could be abandoned or the program reduced. Right now, they would be looking at 250 some odd seated capacity based on this plan. Then the town's going to have to make some decisions. But it's not all up to this board.
What would happen if we didn't approve it?
haven't applied for, then they go back to the original drawings. But, you know, you have, again, site plan review, you have to find some extraordinary conditions.
So this is site plan, this isn't a special permit anymore.
No.
So that,
It's site plan
those
review.
rules have gone away. So now it's just site plan review, which is limited in scope.
It's an administrative review that gets attached to a building permit. In this instance, the building permit is the rec center. There's no building permit has issued or has been even applied for. The building hasn't even been designed. So it is different, just like that accessory in-law apartment you just saw. It's sort of neither fish nor fowl. You're amending a previous decision to increase a parking field for a proposed use that has not yet been designed. Typically, you see the building, they'll tell you the square footage, and all that jazz. That's an unknown, so that's why there's a distinction.
And the improvements are for the police department, the access there,
Another
another.
Entrance
another
over here.
entrance, which,
More
which
parking there.
if the senior center isn't built there.
It's all good.
Would still be good.
That's all good.
So,
And that's the extent of the board's review,
yeah,
technically.
yeah.
May we
Drainage
ask,
also, they
which
should-
which other
Drainage
agencies
has
have
been
contributed to this
improved, lighting has
design?
been improved,
Sure.
everything's been updated. There's a lot of positives.
Jim,
Yes,
I'm wondering if, has the police department looked at this? Were they consulted in any of this? Who drew this up and with whom did they work in order to bring it to this point?
So there was a team of the town engineer, myself, the chief of police, the managers, Pete McCarty, and we went through a series of meetings to essentially come up with this program. So that was the development team. Then we handed it off to Tetra Tech to bring it up to permit level drawings.
so this is as much as you could fit, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And taking into consideration, you know, the adjacent land uses for the Eddie Marks building, the requirements of the police department for its security and impound lot, the Commodores, the football, rec center. So there was a lot in the stew. And this is not the final set of drawings you're going to see. I would be shocked if they plunk a 15,000 square foot building and say, eureka. But at least now, what comes from this decision is a number, and that number is, here's the parking. It might be that they say to themselves, the Marks building may not have to be occupied, or this program will have to be reduced, or whatever it might be, to make things work better. But at least now they have a number.
So I would vote in favor on those grounds, that it's an improvement to lighting and drainage and police department and the other access out to Dillingham, for those reasons. And then let them figure out the senior center side of it.
Plus the handicap parking, they
Yeah.
improve that.
Yeah,
They have a drop-off and pickup area.
yeah,
And I would add to that, a reason to vote for it.
Aren't there now.
yeah.
A reason to vote for it is it sounds as if the people most immediately going to be involved in the future have been involved to bring it to this point with the understanding it has a ways to go.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Can I?
You can keep
respond?
going, yeah.
Okay. I would vote for it under protest, I think, because I do not want the vote to be used as an absolute approval for a senior center to exist there with this.
That's not what we're
The-
doing.
I understand that, Charlotte, but I've seen too many things
Well,
happen.
we're-
And so
we're-
I like the changes here. Absolutely, I like the changes.
We don't have a senior center in front of us. We have a change to the Gus Canyon
Yeah,
parking
I
lot.
understand that. That's
what
the
I'm
only
gonna-
reason I will
that's-
vote for
That's
it.
what I'm going to vote for.
And I
Right.
think it does need to be made clear that that's really what we're voting for.
That's what we have in front of
Yeah.
us.
That's the discussion that's live and in color,
Yeah,
and that's what you're approving. But like I've always told the board members, you vote now.
I really feel like voting no because
I know how
I'm
you
afraid it will
feel.
be used.
You're not the only one, Pat.
But you're,
I've spent 3 years on a committee.
I know, so,
But
The
your
only reason
reasoning
why I'm
isn't
not
to the
is
point.
because it is public use zoning,
Mm-hmm.
which, you know, it's our, not always our decision. You know,
Yeah.
we advise on parking issues. If it was private, it would be a no-brainer. I would not vote for this at all. I would say that's, building needs to be, well, it would brought up to the front. Creating, you know, we have a long-range vision for this area that's supposed to connect that what could be a town green on one side to the town green on the other with pathways and walkways, and they're totally ignoring it. But
For now.
for now.
for now, very good.
And so now we've said that.
But aren't we really supposed to be very careful to vote on only what's in front of us?
Yes.
And not on
Right.
the
But it-
elements
it-
that have been fought over that we lost on?
No, but it does say proposed, Brian once said they shouldn't show things on the plans that we're not
Right.
asking for because it complicates it. And they're showing possible location of it.
I think,
Approximate.
if that were gone, I wouldn't
It-
have a problem.
full disclosure, we talked about that.
Yes.
But, you know, show what's going to happen over by the police station. Everybody knows this is the elephant in the room. This is where this building is proposed to go. So to have left it off would have been somewhat distant.
Unfair, right?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none? Okay?
Yeah,
But I think the senior center ought to be there.
Roger Maris is
I'm
not
going
on record.
to put an asterisk next to the motion.
fields were gone.
Very good, I like that.
Right.
Oh, dear.
General correspondence,
You have Mr.
Mr. Caputo.
Caputo, site plan, you should have a letter,
yeah,
Mr.
right.
Chairman, from the applicant requesting a continuance, or an extension in the timeframe for the board to make a decision. It's not a continuance of the hearing, it's a
just an
timeframe.
extension.
Extension of the timeframe.
Right.
And the extension of the timeframe is to December the 13th, to allow for the board and the applicant to work together on the architectural issues of the plan.
That's exactly what it says in here. Do you want me to read?
No,
it?
we're all set.
Okay.
That's-
So, it's a letter signed by Kenneth Caputo.
Need a motion?
Yes,
I
you do.
move that we extend this case to December 13th.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay. That was easy. Any other correspondence, Brian?
December 13th. There's none.
So precinct meetings, are we going to divide them up and go to them? What articles do we have for town meeting that we need to go to precincts for?
You have the zoning articles, Articles 6 and 7, and I think there's 13, 14, and 15, or 14, 15, 16. There's 5 zoning articles.
Okay. Touch on them.
3 are yours and 2 are petition.
Why don't talk the ones that are ours? Just refresh my memory.
Yours are the marijuana bylaw that would ban marijuana retail establishments.
Okay?
The other 2 are the extension of timeframes from 6 months to 12 months, and from 2 years to 3 years for building permit and special permit protection.
No heavy lifting there.
Yeah.
Okay? I'll try to attend 1 and 2.
I do 8 and 9.
I'll do 5 and 6. It's one meeting.
So it looks like we're missing 3 and 4.
Pam says she does.
Oh, she does it.
Yeah.
So we got them covered. That's the intention.
Very
I
good.
thought Pam said she was going to do 5 and 6.
Oh, I thought you said.
Yeah, I wonder why I should do 3 and 4. She's on 5
No,
and
but
6.
I could be wrong. I thought she said 4.
Oh, that would be
Okay,
handy
so,
if she did.
So don't take that.
It's okay.
You want to wait till the next meeting?
Yeah.
Do we have time, or do we have to?
Well, you know what,
Your next
Pam and I
meeting's
can
after
work
town
After
out.
town
Yeah,
meeting, so
next-
this is it. I've already delayed it once to
Okay.
coordinate it, so to give us a little time. So I think we're all set. It won't hurt, I don't think there's anything that, if we miss it, that we
Yeah.
can't deal with on town meeting floor.
Now, I will be sending out the board's motion on the petitioner's article to Light Industrial C. I think Melinda sent it to you. You all had to take a look at it.
Yeah.
Everything's all set to go, so I'll have her mail that to the town meeting members.
Okay.
Very good.
Future agenda items. Charlotte, you have, this is after town meeting now, so.
Right, so I'm looking forward to a discussion on beginning to talk about our plan for moving forward with form-based zoning. So that among ourselves, we can talk about what steps need to be taken, what would we see as end results at different points in time moving forward, with a likelihood that we will have a pretty good handle on the whole thing within a 2-year time frame.
And I would like to have a discussion with information from Brian. What are some of the things we can do, including a temporary moratorium on development in the reset district until we address some of these issues? Because we have this plan out there, but it's never, have we even voted it or approved it? So I'd like to, I think what I'm afraid of, that a developer could come in and assemble all those properties if they wanted to before we can get our act together, and everything we're trying to do will be taken away in a very short period of time. And I'm afraid we're seeing it now with one. And I'd like to talk about whether there is an alternative for that.
Has that ever happened?
Yes. That's generally what we do when you get surprised by things. You put a hold on it till you get your act together.
Great.
Pat?
If we vote on the reset plan as a board, that we want to accept this as our guidance, does that give it more of an official presence that we can lean on? No. Okay.
It's just a plan.
Okay.
No, that's why we might need, Brian has mentioned things like overlay districts or different things that we can do. I think we need to have a firm discussion on that and see what we actually want to take to town meeting.
Right, what is it that moves us beyond just a plan
Yes.
to being an enforceable,
You have to go back, like you've always said, you have to go back to town meeting.
Right.
with what? Because it would seem that we're missing this master plan thing, so there's elements here.
Well, eventually, as you develop what it is you want to do in this reset area, whether it's multifamily or form-based code, you would then have a series of articles, either under zoning or something, to implement, your plan so it becomes no different than, gee whiz, I think we need something to address nitrogen attenuation in coastal planning, or water resource protection, flood zones, or whatever it might be. But it goes back, you develop it and you go back to the town meeting.
So we'll have this on our agenda, discuss the possible things that we could take to town meeting and the time frame for that, which could be some this spring, some 5 years from now.
We're still working on the purpose section
Yeah.
of the district.
We got a long ways to
We've
go.
got a long ways to go. You're jumping ahead to step number 52. I know everyone's, I love I have to hold you back a little bit, but we really need to get some of the nuts and bolts down to write the district.
Okay.
What it is you want. We want a district that has mixed use, we want a district that has multifamily, we want a district that has form-based code, we want a district that can transfer development rights, you want all these things, that's fine. Once you have a purpose, this is what we wanted to do, and you blend it all together, okay, that means we need to change this, or add that, or amend this, or whatever it might be. You're looking at multiple town meetings.
And that purpose that would be drafted, that's apparently the first step.
First step is purpose.
The
Why are we
purpose,
doing this?
And it's the purpose that would cover the whole new Davis Straits area.
The purpose is to provide affordable housing. The purpose is to provide a nitrogen attenuation. The purpose is,
And it applies to this area.
and it applies to this area. Okay, to do that, we want to implement a series of changes. But everything has to have a reason why we do it. Why, every town meeting member, the first question on their minds is, why are we doing this? Why are we here? If you can't answer that question, kaboom, next question. So why are we doing this? We want to provide more housing. We want to be more resilient about coastal issues. We want to be able to,
So let's all work on ideas for creating the purpose
Right,
at
'cause
our
a-
next meeting.
A big part of it would be more than just
That's
the
all we're gonna talk about is the
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 purpose.
wish list. It would be
And purpose
to
and
extend
discussion,
and maintain the intrinsic character of the town. You'd have to do that to get into form-based zoning.
There you go. And to do that, we want to, boom, reduce heights. We want to do this or that, right? The how we
Like
get
goals
there.
and policies and action plans.
It's the whys come first,
Yeah.
and then the hows come next.
Right.
But why are we doing this? What do we want to accomplish?
Little history question. When the town moved to take down the telephone poles down to past the library, what kind of zoning or anything was involved in any of that? Or was that just finding enough money to do it?
Yes, that was mostly finding enough money to do it. And it was a Public Works Economic Development Grant back in the early 90s. And the purpose was to revitalize and re-enhance, downtowns. That was the purpose of the Economic Development Grant.
And
Back
we
in the
didn't
day.
bury them, we moved them.
We did,
They're
right.
behind the buildings.
Right.
Yeah, well, next time it can do better.
Well, it costs money.
Yes, what doesn't?
Right. But the original concept was to have street furniture, the same theme of signage, wayfinding, sidewalks, street furniture. The idea to do the utilities sort of flowed out of those discussions, and they found the groundwater is right there, and they decided that it's extremely expensive, but it worked out. In the end, they could be moved. It's updated by these panel boxes. It was quite a show.
It's been a great success. I mean, our Main Street is, people talk about it all the time.
Right.
Oh, it's made a huge difference, huge. And the thing is now, extend it all the way up to Stop and Shop Corner, and then go
That's-
further.
That's the plan.
Right.
That's the plan.
Okay, so we'll
Right.
talk about, we get some rid of this short-term planning. You're going to want to talk about, Davis Straits and the purpose of what we're doing, and then a little bit of background about some tools, the toolbox.
Right.
To construct what it is you're envisioning. So you need to vision, up here, and then we'll get the toolbox out and say, well, we need this, this, and this to get to your vision. You have to know what you want. I know I'm kind of stressing it, but you need to know why we're doing this.
So we don't even need to talk about the toolbox next meeting.
I will, but, I expect that the board should have also a discussion about what they envision, what the purpose of this new bylaw is. When it's all said and done, it's like a computer program, it's just a lot slower. We want to program the land to do something, which is what we think it's going to look like, and what's going to be in it. It's not on the agenda.
Okay, so that's our,
That is a big part of any one particular agenda, one evening.
any other
It takes
future
a
agenda
lot of
items,
time.
other than this Davis Straits purpose? That'll be a pretty lively discussion. Anything
Yeah.
else?
No.
Well, we'll survive town meeting, then we'll go through that and we'll move on. Next meeting, November 14th. We all prepared, everyone going to be here? That-
I'll
What?
I'll be traveling back from Europe, but I should be.
Europe and then Hawaii.
So,
Go me. It's good to be me.
Adjournment.
I'm ready for a motion to
So I
adjourn.
move adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No? Thank you.